Present.
Director Bowles.
Here.
Director Dye.
Here.
Director Randall.
Here.
Director Marsh.
Here.
Also in attendance is General Manager Chuck Duffy, Assistant General Manager Hope Atmore, and Legal Counsel Bill Parkin.
Fantastic. So let's get started with general public participation. As per usual, public members may comment on matters under the jurisdiction of the district that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. So if there are any comments in the room? Yeah.
So quickly, I'm just gonna give a quick MCC update.
Can you
Say your
yeah,
name.
can you introduce?
Yeah, sure. Kevin Sniczynski, and speaking on behalf of the MCC. I'm the current treasurer, and we had a little bit of chaos at our last meeting, a little bit of misunderstanding, and have invited Ray Mueller to work with the group and attend our first of year meeting to review what our core objectives are, what our mandate really is, not what the perception of what our mandate is. And basically just to get everybody to align behind one message and one idea moving forward. Also, there was, I don't know who it's all gone out to at this point, but Mr. Rogers has resigned from the MCC. So I think he will be with us throughout the end of the month. We're pretty much wrapping up. We have 2 meetings in December, but the last meeting in December will be our public nomination and election process. I will be putting my name in for vice chair for the MCC for the year 2026. We do have a few open items. There's some letters that we are considering, a letter on behalf of the community, presenting its stance, its overall take on the Harbor District's parking lot, which I understand a new place has been identified and considered and announced at the Harbor District's meeting. So it may be moot at that point. And then we'll be writing a letter on behalf of Ray Mueller to release some documents from CAL FIRE, or Caltrans rather, sorry. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Papa Gomes, Ramaytush descendant from the village of Temigtok along Clara Creek. Founder and executive director of Muchiate Indigenous Land Trust. I came to keep it fresh in the board's mind that we're gaining more and more support for the naming of Chiwan Park. Most recently, Ray Mueller sent a letter of support. We've also received a letter of support from the director of the Heel Farm. And so I just wanted to keep it fresh in the board's mind that it's a very passionate topic with a lot of people here in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other folks in the room that would like to make a public comment? Right, on Zoom, do we have any participants there that'd like to make a public comment? Right, and seeing as there are none, we'll move on to our regular meeting agenda, starting with recreation activities and a report on planned recreation program designs.
Okay. So we continued with our yoga. We had another library gem painting class recently and another sound bath. We have one more sound bath coming up for the finish of the year, and we're also looking at the library for one more arts and crafts event. Putting most of our efforts in right now to the planning of El Granada Festive, which Kevin's going to give a little more information about when we get to part C. But yeah, we're kind of wrapping up the year with events and planning ahead for the spring. So that's about it. But if you have suggestions, of course, we're always open.
I keep hearing good things about the chair yoga.
It is
From the community.
It is
They're
very
like
well
very excited
attended.
about it.
It's really
Yeah.
well attended. We've
Yeah.
had people asking to add a second class. So
Yeah.
we might start there twice a week.
How many people are attending?
We had 10 the week before last, and this past week we had 5. So a little smaller this time, but the one before was very well attended. So
That's cool. Right. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I did the recreation committee idea. I do think that as we move forward, it's good to get the community more involved in what we're doing. There are a lot of possibilities of
Oh, wait, are
recreation
you moving on to
events.
B?
Yes, I thought we were,
Okay.
Yeah, that's, no, and actually, that's perfect, because Barbara had asked
Go
for that
ahead.
to be on the agenda, so yeah, go for
Yes,
it.
go ahead. I didn't know we were
Segue
moving.
there, yeah.
That's fine.
sorry.
Go for it.
It just,
Yeah.
I thought we were done with A and I just wanted to speak to B.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us, maybe in January, solicit applications and do some interviews and appoint. I don't know, we should probably talk for a minute about how many people we had of the advisory committee. We had 7, I believe.
We had 7, but it also had a charter that I think probably needs to be revisited before we.
Yeah, well, this would be different. I see this one is focusing just on recreation programs. We might have we'll probably have another park one later.
I think we need a charter for it before we think about recruiting.
Yeah.
But from my experience on the PAC, one of the challenges, I think, is you have to have substantive things for the people to do and weigh in on. And so they could weigh in on recreation programming, but our always challenge with recreation programming was the lack of venues. You know, we still have that challenge. The walks were popular. And I think Hope has made more use of this room for small things, but there wasn't that much for the committee to weigh in on for recreation. We sort of worked through a work list of all of the various things we could do for parks. So I think it's just important. That's why I think the charter is
Sure,
important.
I agree.
Like, what exactly do you want people to do and weigh in on? And therefore, what kind of people do you need? And therefore, how often do you need to meet? Because an alternative is to have a network of people who you pull in on in a more informal way for bouncing ideas, getting ideas, and so on. But the meetings have to be public if it's a true committee, and advisory to the board. So it really has to have a mission for advising to the board.
But isn't this also just to generate ideas for our new park?
Well, no,
I mean,
I see this
sure.
right now as ideas, and I'm thinking that these people might accept some responsibility for helping with especially outdoor events. I understand the
Right,
indoor
okay.
complexity, but some ideas for additional walks, for additional activities that we could do in outdoors in the parks, and to be thinking ahead about things that we could do and
Yeah.
maybe
I feel like
helping with
it's-
them.
I feel like it's a yes and, right? Like as I was thinking about it this evening, ahead of this meeting, I was thinking it'd be nice to have this committee so that they could also help inform us as we think about the park and the rec center and start to get community input and ideas around ways in which we could use the space.
Yeah.
So, and test stuff, right? See what
Yeah.
what folks are interested in the community, so.
I don't think it needs to be 2 separate ones.
Yeah.
Our challenge, although the Pat could come up with ideas for recognition. I see Pat is here.
Recreation.
People know recreation. It was hard to get people to actually make it happen. And then even if we did, because we didn't have a good staff, I organized cleanups, say on the medians, each one attracted one person besides me. And so it's, I think it was very not easy for the people on the committee to organize those things without a lot of staff help. To have waivers and contracts. So I think we have to, I'd be happy to chat with Hope about what we learned from doing this on the pad that may help structure a little differently. But I agree, I don't think it needs to be the rec committee and then our committee. I think one of the great uses is thinking about, Tom mentioned at the last meeting. We need to come up with more detail about how we will use the number of events we'll have and how big they will be, and some of really the operating rules of the park and the operating use of the rec center. And I think the committee could really help too.
I think from a staff perspective, having something informal as we're just continuing to develop recreation programs would be really useful. Having something more formalized, like you said, would involve, posting agendas and keeping minutes, and that would be an additional burden on staff at this point that I think we can't, would actually take away from the actual recreation part of things. So in my mind, I think, I suggested some things like we could do some next door polls. And generally what I've been doing is when we do have classes, I'm coming in and talking to the attendees, asking what other things they'd like to see. But having some sort of loose, at least for now, informal group that could meet, say, once a month over coffee here at the district and chat about ideas and things they might like to see. And that might actually help recruit people further down the line for, for these other things. If that seems like that would be workable in your mind, Barbara, did you want to see
I set
something?
my heart set on it. I do think trying to get the community more involved in what we're doing is a valuable thing to do.
Mhm.
And I was on the PAC for more than a year and I found it really interesting. And I think we did make a real contribution. I think having something informal is good, but then there's really less imperative for people to show up and people to help. So we can put this off if we want to just sort of see what happens with community involvement. We can go there. But I would like to have something more specific, but it's okay. That's what.
Well, can we slow roll it? Can we do a more informal sort of thing now and see how that goes and then build momentum and as Hope was saying, and then move into something more formal? Because I do recognize like there are only 2 people working in the office. So if you're saying you're concerned about capacity, that's a real concern.
That was a challenge with the PAC.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of staff time to help get things done.
I wonder too, if at your direction, maybe you would like me to go out and specifically talk to people at Boys and Girls Club, at Senior Co-Siders, who can then lead me to people who live in El Granada who are also involved in those things, and that might help. Pull some additional
I
ideas.
don't want to forget to say that 2 members of the former PAC, Tierney, who's here, and Michelle Drivey, who's online, have both told me if we reconstitute a committee, they're interested in participating. So
I think there would be interest from this community and I understand agendas and, difficulty in that. I'm not sure I see a big difference between an informal coffee that you have to set up and people would come to and people who commit to coming at a certain time every quarter. I mean, I'm not talking about a monthly or, the frequency could be less. I do think it works better if you kind of ask people and then give them something specific to talk about, but we can put this off, yeah.
Well, perhaps could I suggest maybe that you meet with Hope and think about like come back to the board with more structure around the ask that you would ask of the community versus just wanting a committee? Because maybe that would help
I
us
wasn't,
understand.
proposing that we necessarily create it. I agree with the idea it needs a charter. So we
Yeah.
will work on this and bring it back.
That's what I'm saying. So like maybe work on the charter and
Sure.
come back to the board. Are there comments from the community about this?
I just want to.
Yes.
Michelle Dragony.
Yeah, I just saw her hands up. Yeah.
I'm just curious, so you talked about like past members who thought that they would be interested in coming back. And I think what I'm also hearing is that there's also an opportunity for some new faces. And maybe some different demographics. Although I do like the idea of reaching out to like the Boys and Girls Club and Senior Co-Siders and trying to find people who have been like true ambassadors of those organizations and kind of understanding like what their needs have been as a benefit. But I do think that there are a lot of engaged community members who just through the process of trying to make things better in general, like we see a lot of things, like we run into natural organic opposition for some things, we see a lot of momentum for other things, so I think a more general approach also has its benefits.
Thank you. Michelle, you have your hand up?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I think this is a bad time to ask Hope to do something on top of everything she's doing right now for El Granada Festive. I'm happy to help you, Barbara, in any way, shape, or form. We can like put a little poll out to the, previous pack and see if they can find somebody to replace them. That kind of method. But I'm willing to help. So thank you.
Well, there's no rush on this. I wasn't proposing that we put it together before El Granada Festive, which is a big enterprise. I'm thinking ahead to next year. That was my goal, is to think about next year as we move forward with some of the stuff. So I think this is good.
Great. All right, should we move on to C then, consideration of use of skate ramp?
Yeah, and actually, if it's okay with you, let Kevin give an update on the overall, and then we can talk about the specifics of the skate ramp.
Sure, so do you want to wait on that? you're saying, or you want
Yeah,
to jump to
so
Kevin?
Go ahead and do the
Okay.
update on the, where we are in the event.
Okay, so then switching hats, speaking on behalf of Coastside Allies, myself as a community member, and thank you for having me back for your general meeting to give an update. I think everybody knows that there's a lot of excitement around this now, since somebody too quickly leaked an unfinished flyer. But that being said, I think that the producers team, Michelle Dragney, myself, Hope, Barbara, and Crystalline, and then kind of there's, you know, some associate staffs, we're meeting on Monday or Tuesday. We're gonna put something together to kind of formalize just some of the last minute things and make sure that there are no holes or gaps. Overall, though, we have gotten interest from multiple groups, from performance artists to face painters. Vendors are completely booked. One of my assignments is to reach out to the CBOs or the nonprofit groups for that tabling portion. That we're talking about blending that table. I think if MCC tables, if GCSD is also tabling Harbor District Chamber, it could be very crowded. So we would really have to figure out what that looks like, or maybe on Monday talk about splitting some of that up from one day to the other event on another day.
Kevin,
we-
what do you mean by tabling? Like,
So just tabling, handing out flyers, getting people to if they bring their like scan codes, it can like
about their organization?
right,
Oh, I see.
exactly.
Okay.
Just the services they offer, maybe getting people signed up for their newsletters, talking to people about what they do. We definitely would like to have a presence from senior co-siders, since all of the proceeds will go to them. We do have confirmation from Notre Dame that they will be providing our donation elves. They will be working in 4-hour shifts that will also be determined at our producers meeting next week, so we can give an update. But those individuals will just be responsible for going around with buckets or boxes for drop donations for senior co-siders. I did want to announce to you that 2 of my neighbors that I spoke to about contributing as sponsors have donated directly to senior co-siders. And one amount was $5,000 and another amount was $10,000. So as soon as the Hope says, go forth, Kevin, and raise more funds, I think we'll get more. And I also have heard a lot of sentiment around people wanting to donate to GCSD so that this event can be repeated next year already, not having seen a single thing, wanting to make sure that it continues. So Hope will come back to us with the specifics of how that would look and what it would look like for people to donate directly to GCSD if that's even allowed. Entertainment is shaping up. We have photo ops for the Children's Entertainment Day with Santa and his elf. We have face painting that's happening. Kid crafting is being sponsored by Half Moon Bay Library. Those are some things that are kind of queued in. In terms of donations or in-kind donations, so I was able to secure about $4,000 worth of merchandise for $500 at Home Depot. So that would include, I think they're giving us 7 9-foot green trees, pre-lit green trees. And then we're also getting the cone trees. I don't know if anybody knows what a cone tree is. I just figured it out myself this year. So rather than trying to find a fully natural looking tree that's 20 feet tall or even 15 feet tall, which is like $10,000, no joke, crazy expensive. Cone trees are simply metal structures that have lights that kind of stream down. And it's, I think, in terms of like the cost benefit for us, and the like the visual benefit for us, like turning that corner, you'll see that from the freeway basically. But you'll see it from like every turn and possibly, from, vantage points from people's houses, which I think is a really nice impact and provides a really nice like background for our speakers. We have confirmed, Ray has confirmed that he will open for us on the 19th, that he will be there at 5 o'clock, and we'll get more details around staging, AB, all of that stuff for you in a formal budget. I think it's probably gonna come in between one of your meetings, so, because we're working so fast and it's already, the event is tomorrow, in my mind at least. We'll get that to you ASAP. I know Michelle wants a budget as well, so we will get that, and I will ask, hope to distribute it to the board as well as the producers group. I think that is everything. If something hasn't been covered, we can get back to you. I do want to let you know that we did reach out to the local schools. So we reached out to Wilkinson's, we did reach out to the high school, and I think Barbara should hear back from some of those individuals about whether or not the kid is, I think it's the last day of school on that day. So we're hoping that some of them will be able to be present and maybe do some carols or some kind of presentation, which I think would be very cool. All right, that's it. Any questions? Sorry.
Thank you, Kevin.
What? Yeah.
The tabling, you mentioned both CPOs and some of the government organizations. I smiled because Sam always loves to table anywhere that they can tell you how the sewers work. So they would probably want to be there. I just, it wasn't really sure, I guess for awareness, that's why all the districts are elected.
Yeah.
Is that the main purpose? Just the
It's
visibility?
well, I think I can only speak from my personal experience. There was like for a very long time, maybe the first 10 years that I lived here, I had no idea that there was a group that advocated for me and my concerns. And I think that in general, our community doesn't have a full understanding, or at least not all of them, of what our organizations do, what you guys do, the full scope of what you do. I don't think that there are enough people that know that you guys do chair yoga. Like honestly, I think that there's an opportunity to just take our programming down to a kind of just a community, hey neighbor level. And here's some, like focusing on that stuff instead of like, here's what our, budget says we have to do. But we do yoga and we offer free classes on this, or we do, whatever it is. Like MCC, like an idea was thrown out that we would have town halls that were just more like Minglers, like more about meeting your council members and like what their interests are and what you share in common, and kind of organically coming up with issues. So anyway, we can take away the business portion of what we do and bring it to just like a community neighbor, like here are some things you should tap into. I think that would be optimal. I can't speak to like how we would enforce something like that, but you guys are also all community members. So if there's an organization that you think should be there and provide information, by all means. Hope and I did have a quick discussion about kind of what it would feel like for senior co-siders to be the entity that was receiving donations for the drive, while there are other nonprofits there who are suffering the same things. I mean, everybody is hurting for money, everybody is hurting for resources, and it's heartbreaking. But it doesn't mean that we can't do things throughout the year to help them as sister organizations. It would just be less structured and definitely not a 2-day series of events.
I think it's reasonable to feature senior co-siders instead of beneficiary.
Yeah.
If you want other nonprofits, then, give me a buzz and I can check in with co-side vote too.
Yeah.
Let people know, even though they moved, they didn't leave on.
We do have an abundance, I think, at this point of people. So I think when we have our meeting on Monday, the Monday or Tuesday, whenever it's set, we'll get who's confirmed. I'm not sure that we have the actual physical space anymore to add much more, but we'll know more when we meet on Monday or Tuesday. I think literally every spot that we designated is like full. And if we add 5 community organizations to one table, that could create a problem. So, anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
The way I understood it was gonna be mostly located next to the post office in that corner lot. But the agenda item says consideration of using the dirt lot across the
We're gonna
street.
talk about that
Yeah, I'll
next.
talk about
Right.
Oh, I thought that was
Yep.
what
So
I was
that's-
talking about now.
That's separate. So I will just do a quick plug. I have reached out to the fire department. I do have an appointment. So for bouncy houses and some other like peripheral stuff that is going to be happening for El Granada Festive, we're talking about using the space behind. There's a very real fear about asking kids to walk across this road and traffic concerns, of course. So we're trying to put as much of that behind and just trying to get that okayed by the fire station. So we'll have an update on that as well.
You mean between the lot?
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody knows, but the lot next to the post office, it ends where there's a brick wall that is just behind the post office and then it goes into apartments. That line is not a straight line, but the lot behind there or the parcel behind it is the fire stations. Any more?
Any
public?
comments from the public? Questions for? Alright, oh,
Would it be, if there's a concern about children crossing the road, would it be possible to block it and that section of the road pedestrian only?
So I've asked the police station and you can actually reroute traffic. I think that would be according the words of the person I spoke to would be disastrous and probably not very well received by the community.
The fire station is on that street.
Right, it's a fairly important thoroughfare to block off from 10 to 5 every day, so the idea of, you know, having guards, like we've talked through all the ideas. I do think that Hope bringing attention to this, and I think Michelle also mentioning like the space behind is just
Sunday.
it's just an ask with the fire station, and I think they will be very amenable to it.
So there's the mountain.
Yeah, it's thorough.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
I hope, did you wanna?
Yeah, so just, you know, we kind of came to this conclusion after the agenda packet was already out, because we had talked about how fun it would be to have skating Santas and that sort of thing, but once I started thinking about anybody crossing the road, it doesn't seem safe. That said, I think having your board approve, you know, it might be overflow parking, it might be whatever it might need to be, but just having that, since that is something that this board has agreed that you want to give approvals when somebody's going to use the lot, even if it's GCSD, I think it's an important step to take, just in case we need to do any kind of overflow into that lot, but
As long as,
most likely it won't happen.
I was gonna say, but I'd want it to be a very narrow approval,
Mhm.
like, I don't actually feel comfortable, like, having kids hopped up on sugar. Running across the street.
100%.
Yeah, like-
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
It
So I mean, the
doesn't-
only
yeah.
thing I think would be used for would be the vendors who are gonna be there on Sunday. It's a full artisan craft fair. Those vendors might need to park over there, which I mean, obviously they could park there anyway, but I think if just having that understanding that they're gonna park there because they're part of this El Granada Festive event would be
Yeah.
the
Overflow
extent of it.
parking.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, that would be the extent of it.
Yeah, just so they don't get people traffic, like, people
Right.
don't respect the 25-mile rule.
No.
And because it's the first year, people aren't gonna know, so they're just gonna come shooting around that corner like they always do, and then stumble upon a festival and then,
Mhm.
you know, so.
Cones in the road?
Does anybody wanna make a motion specific to overflow?
I move approval of the use of the skate ramp in the dirt lot for El Granada festive events. As spelled out by staff.
I didn't think.
Can we be more specific? Yeah.
Overflow parking. was-
Yeah, can we say with overflow parking?
Limited to?
Yes.
Well,
That's I think that's a safe bet. I don't anticipate any of the events taking place over there at
Okay.
all.
that's fine,
And
that's good.
and by you saying so, then I can say absolutely not.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, great.
Got it.
Did someone second?
Second.
Is that all right?
No, move on. Director Allen?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good-
Oh, yeah, that's right, you're all here.
Yeah,
Okay, all in favor,
Oh,
right.
great.
But thank you, I do need to step out, but.
All right, thank you. So exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, our
Thank
next
you.
meeting is the day before.
Exactly.
Festive, so.
Everyone should comment what they're gonna wear.
I'll try to think about it.
Great, let's move on then to item 2, Park and Recreation Center updates from the project team.
Got Tom Conley here from KCRH Landscape Architects, and he's going to provide an update on the changes to the map that is to be across the result of the county. Yeah.
Mm,
A month ago, so.
yeah.
With that, Tom, you can take it away.
Thank you. Hope next share you. Sharing the right thing.
Is that?
Okay, yeah, thank you everybody for having me back. You have copies of the plan in front of you. It's the same that was in the electronic packet that went out last week, and it's the same that's on the easel here. We just want to surround you with the new map. So there aren't any questions. When I was here for the last meeting, it was really to kind of give you our fresh reactions to a letter that was just received a few days later, the summary letter from the county on the major development pre-application review. Since then, we've been able to dig in a bit on the comments. We've evaluated the feedback from the regulatory agencies and have had some direct meetings and correspondence with Coastal Commission staff. In response to the comments raised in the county's letter, as well as these follow-up clarifications, staff asked us to update the plan that's in front of you. And I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the changes, but I want to highlight that all of the previously approved project components remain. There are active and passive recreation spaces in pretty much the same space as they were before. There are play structures and picnic areas and a skate area, public restroom, dog park, public parking, fitness stations, trails, and enhanced habitat areas all remain as integral features. And this updated plan is just another step in an ongoing process of ongoing refinement of the park design. In this iteration, there remains no change to the Burnham Creek riparian zone. All of the active recreation areas are consolidated a little bit more centrally than they were. And the northern section of the park is a little bit more pastoral and open. But even with this reshuffling of spaces, our play spaces and trails remain essentially the same size and maintain the same circulation patterns and generally the same relationships to each other. The most notable change is probably in the parking areas. And this came directly out of our conversations with Coastal Commission staff. Previously, we showed 10 angled parking stalls along the frontage in front of the village green. And County Public Works and Planning requested that this parking be moved entirely within the property limits due to future or potential county alignments of trails and future road development along Obispo Road. And in making these changes, we altered the alignment of the parking from angled to perpendicular because it improves access for vehicles coming from both directions. There's no awkward crank the wheel and swing all the way around to get in the angled parking from the other direction. One benefit of changing the orientation of the parking is that it increased the capacity. As for the overall quantity, in conversation with coastal staff, we added 2 ADA stalls over on this end of the park, increasing the total number to 12 spaces along the village green. And we remain confident, especially after discussing this with Coastal, that the parking provided in this plan more than makes up for the typical daily parking potentially displaced by the development of the dirt lot into a park amenity space. This expanded parking is surrounded by accessible sidewalks, and we have included additional bike parking over in this area to ensure that we're increasing opportunities for public access. Increasing the parking capacity necessitated a more targeted renovation of the adjacent Portola drainage, especially when taking into account the county's less than enthusiastic response to our bumping into the right of way there on the previous plan. This current update maintains the previously proposed eradications of invasive species and includes robust protections for buffer areas compliant with the county's local coastal program, which includes fencing to separate public access from those potentially sensitive habitat areas. We're proposing essentially the same approach to the northern ephemeral drainage, with both ditches still being spanned by wide pedestrian footbridges. Between the two ditches, the parking has been realigned from the large paved parking lot in the previous iteration, again, to perpendicular stalls fully within the limits of the district's property, which include ADA parking and additional access improvements to ensure accessibility from all directions. While this is a slight reduction in quantity from the previous plan, it's a dramatic reduction in overall hard surfaces paving, and it's still almost double the number of stalls that are recommended for the variety of uses, both the active and passive uses in the new park. Furthermore, this arrangement really kind of obviates the need for any access control gates or other features to close the parking lot at the end of the day. The park restroom has been flipped in this version, and it now anchors a entry plaza that is right at the foot of a potential crosswalk crossing Obispo Road from downtown. And the relocated skate ramp and skate area are right there, right in here, tucked nearby, and are protected from, the skate area is protected to avoid conflicts with or from pedestrians walking on the path or in the plaza. The plaza itself opens to a more active lawn with new play areas and the family and group picnic areas on the opposite side. I mentioned earlier, changes to the area north of the ephemeral drainage largely resulted in more open and pastoral park. The dog park and basketball court have shifted south closer to the active core. And these changes allow us to apply perhaps a more conservative approach to the area previously designated on our plans as a potential rain garden. There's no formal determination of jurisdiction by any agency, but these proposed updates ensure the local coastal program's protection for potentially sensitive habitat areas remains intact. With your approval of this updated plan, our next steps involve a pretty significant update to the submittal package, re-engaging with our civil engineer to get their drawings up to CE speed and align with the current plans. There's some additional consultant coordination that the county has required or is going to require, including updates to the biological and aquatic resources analyses, a minor update to the geotechnical report. The county has also requested a preliminary lighting plan for the community center area. The lighting plan for the park is going to be pretty easy. There isn't any. They've also requested tree survey and tree protection plan. This is not the first time it's come up. I don't know what trees people see out there, but we'll put something together for them.
I think it's only the trees in the Burnham Creek itself.
hundreds of feet away from the emitter. And we also need to submit plans with the county's landscape water use ordinances. Sometimes we can push that off to a later stage, but the county wants that right up front. Worth it. We're also helping district staff coordinate required traffic impact mitigation plan and compliance with the county's transportation demand policy, among other studies and consultant coordination items. So we expect to have updates on many of those at the December meeting. In parallel to all this are the certificate of compliance process and the new one to us, which is the Airport Land Use Commission review. Because the site is just barely within the largest circle that you can draw around Half Moon Bay Airport and still be considered within their jurisdiction. So that'll be fun. These are administrative items that have really little direct relationship to the plans themselves. In addition, we still have the regulatory approval process to go through for any work that's happened with the ditches. Otherwise, that's it. Do you have any questions?
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks so much for taking all of the feedback. Together, it's really great. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Just a couple questions. First one, I think is clear. There's split rail fencing around the sensitive ditch area. I just can't remember, are we having split rail fencing across the back of the park between us and the Caltrans right way?
That has been in previous versions of the plan. If it's the board's desire to make that absolutely we can. When the areas around the ditches are fenced off, because of the little trick is, where that fence goes from there. And it's still not entirely clear to me how the county wants that protective fencing to happen on the visible road side of things. But it's still part of the snow effect at this point.
For some comment at the county workshop about concern about safety with kids with the highway closed. So I know a split rail fence isn't a barrier like you have around the top lot, but at least it's something that says the plantings here. My other question was really, if you could say more on one of the appeals to the Coastal Commission of the Caltrans bike lane projects. Somebody spent a lot of energy to look at what is the maximum number of cars that ever park in the dirt lot. And I think on the GCSD property with 45 to 50. It was interesting, the Coastal Commission was not, I guess, interested in keeping the maximum number that have ever parked there. Can you say more about why you're confident that the Coastal Commission will be happy with this number of parking spaces?
Sure, because the Coastal Commission staff specifically told us that they're not looking for the worst case scenario. That is an unreasonable application of the baseline parking estimate. They specifically, they have access to that photograph and that analysis that came from the appellants. They also have access to the other 60 odd historical aerial photos of use of the parking lot over really going back to 1985. And so we were able to develop a baseline based on that historical data. And it is shockingly small.
Well, I do obsessively count the cars every time I drive by, and especially on weekends on a sunny day. And it really is a very small number of days when there are more than 15 cars in one.
Yeah, and it changed pretty significantly in 2019, 2020. Right after Caltrans did some regrading of the shoulder right there. We of course, Coastal's not just going to take our word for it. We have a memo that they're working on that will accompany the ultimate submittal, but we're confident based on the conversations we have that we have a reasonable non-parking.
And I have a question.
I will just relate that I also count the cars in Quarry Park parking lot by the playground. It's generally 3 or 4. So 19 seems like a reasonable number.
Right, well, I mean, it's more than 19 too, right? When you look at these total, there's 31 here, and then remind me, what's the number of parking in the main parking lot? Yeah,
What?
20, okay.
Yeah.
And then will there be will the road be finished enough that people can park along the road or no?
We don't have any, there's nothing on the plan that deals with any of the road itself.
Uh-huh,
However, the road is open and parkable right now.
okay, but will there be like a finished curb there now at the end, at the edge of the park on Obispo?
No, there is, in portion, there is a curb. There's a few spots that were broken, during the construction of the second phase of the wet weather management system.
I mean, I feel like right now where you cross that avenue at Portola, it's just dirt and logs. There's no curbs, right? Where the parking lot's gonna be, like, there's a lot of missing.
In this area, yeah, there will be new curbing happening here, just not along this stretch.
What are you
Because
saying?
that comes up on the.
Yeah, okay,
Not along here. All of that is occurring within the county's right of way. And they were pretty clear that they didn't want to see any improvements
okay,
encroaching into their right of way.
got it.
So where we have new paving and new parking areas within the district's property, those will all be traditionally maintained with a curb and gutter, especially to function as a wheel stop.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions here?
We've always included a trail bikeway that goes to Coronado. It's always been in the previous plans. I understand this is something that was worked out with the county, but can you just speak to that for a minute?
The county has a less definitive idea of their future improvements along Obispo than they did last time we talked about this. They have it, and that's because of the ongoing discussions with Caltrans relating to how Caltrans is preparing to mitigate for sea level rise. Because it is so open, there's been the implication that I got from the letter is that the county is prepared to put in a bike lane or a trail bike lane fully within the right of way on
Multimodal
Obispo,
trail?
the multimodal trail along Obispo for some indeterminate stretch of time. I'm confident that this is not the last time we're going to be talking about this, but that's certainly the direction it seemed they were going when we discussed this with them. There are connection points, very easy connection points for the park trails to adjoin future trails. But I think until the county has more clarity on how they want their multimodal trail to work, it's not the district's role or responsibility to offer that to them.
I know, it has been a feature that has been well received, but if the county at this point is rethinking that, that's fine. I just was curious to know a little more about where we stood on that, because again, it was something that the community was pleased about, that there was going to be a pathway down to that.
Absolutely. The county unequivocally told us to remove it from the plan.
Okay, good to know.
It was, Tom, wasn't it? It was mostly in the county right of way rather than on our property.
Entirely.
And they asked us to
Entirely within the plan.
basically not put anything on their right of way, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this was all that going on.
Right.
All right, any other questions?
I had a couple comments. First of all, brilliant job responding to all of these comments and suggestions, and still managing to get all the things that the community listed as high on their priority list into the park, given the new constraints. I really like the idea that we're going to have more natural habitat areas and habitat restoration at the north end. That's going to be important to me. And yet I think we're gonna have a lot of terrific visitor serving uses here. And are we at this point going to redo this map and put it up on the sign, and will you flip it around?
That's, I think that's a, that's your decision, that's not a question for me.
I mean, this is gonna be. How, I guess my question is it, how likely is it that there will be immediately further changes? Or this is our submittal now?
This is, I mean, the next step is submittal, there's no pre-application anything anymore, it's just getting the consultant team ramped up and diving in.
And what are gonna be the slow points? I mean, do we have to do a grading plan before, or that comes after they do preliminary work?
We will submit a preliminary grading plan. Civil has already done what's considered like a 30% plan.
Great.
Typically for a CDP, the county's gonna wanna see a 60% plan, so more detail, but not buildable.
Right, okay. And I guess. Yeah, just look, and I do think we should get a new map up there so people can see the changes. But I mean, January, it's a busy time. I'm not saying my goal is not to get rid of staff.
Were there some comments on this side? Yeah.
I have questions about the skateboarding area.
Yeah.
Compared to the previous map, what is the square footage of compared? Is it the same, larger or smaller on this newest map?
I had all of those numbers on a post-it on my desk. It's still on my desk. It's comparable. It's maybe 15% less or so. That I think that was the in overall square footage.
My skater's eye caught that.
Yeah, but it's I can't tell you the exact amount.
But it is smaller.
It is a bit smaller than the
But
previous.
the ramp's the same.
The
Ramp
ramp's
is the ramp.
the ramp's the same,
So they
which is
put
about the
skatable
same
area.
size as the one it is out there right
So
now.
there's more skatable area than they have now.
Yeah.
But
Right.
early on in the process, the skateboarders felt they were promised a larger area adjacent to the ramp in the final version. So I don't know where we are in the process, if things can be adjusted in terms of size.
This is the master plan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that still happens to tighten this up and to actually get it to something that's buildable.
Okay, well, speaking for the skateboarders, who are some of the most avid users of the space now,
Definitely.
it doesn't, besides the ramp, the extra space doesn't look large enough to create something that is going to be enjoyed. So.
I appreciate that. We can work on reconfiguring things to eke out as much space as possible without causing conflicts.
Thank you.
Just a quick
And-
question related to that. What is the little rectangle next to the skate ramp there?
There's a handful of things out there that were thrown in as potential skate features.
Oh,
It's a pyramid.
We had.
It's a typical skate feature, but it's just a placeholder, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not a final design.
Well,
More
we have a community
questions.
member for skate.
What was that?
I said we have our community member for skate.
Oh, yeah, I'm the liaison for sure. You use the word protected. What is the barrier between the skate area and the path that goes by?
A split route
Okay,
fence.
I wasn't sure what it was protected by. And that's all my question. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from the community? Yeah.
With the new northern parking lot alignment parallel, how wide is the sidewalk between the green and the parking space?
It's 10 feet.
10 feet, okay. How wide is the yellow that goes around the skate, green area?
In most cases, it's 8 to 10 feet. The paths vary.
They're similar.
Yeah.
Similar size. I was concerned if you had reduced the width of the sidewalk. Because in my mind, there's gonna be a lot of people who wanna walk a circle all the way around the park. And is that enough space And when the sidewalk on the north parking lot goes south and hits the sidewalk, near the sidewalk at Bartola, where would they go? Where would someone go other than on the sidewalk south and break up the loop? And is there a loop possibility on the south sidewalk as well? For walkers, bicyclists, I just envision a lot of older residents wanting to use, getting this, stay on the park completely, stay off the streets completely, and get their exercise. And they would love to have unimpaired options to walk in a loop. And it seems like you cut off the loop, the trail loops, that is, would be the eastern side of the loops. But maybe I'm just not reading it right.
No, that's correct. There is no longer a Obispo side connection across that, the Portola drainage.
But the loop on the northern part of the park, north of the Portola ditch, is a really quite a large, long loop.
Yeah, but this spot right
Yeah, we
here.
can talk about that.
you could-
That's cut off, yeah.
But there is no paved connection along the Obispo side of that. And that was, there were two factors that went into that. One is that anything that we would do there would encroach into the county's right of way. And the county was very clear that they were not going to support those encroachments. The second reason is that there is a 30-foot buffer from the limits of riparian area right there. Practically speaking, there is a use trail right there now. There's probably going to continue to be a use
I would
trail,
think
Right now?
there'd be a use trail.
but we can't propose the development of a trail in that area.
It just seems like an obvious omission, you know, you got a loop and then. They have to go back down all the way to the west side.
Yeah.
You bet.
People will go where they will go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any comments on Zoom? Thank you for that. Are there any comments on Zoom? All right. So I think that we are, thank you so much. I think that's it. And the only question on the table is if we want to vote on changing the sign, we need to decide as a board, we'd like to ask staff to do that.
Yeah, in January, but
Would
I
you?
can make an inquiry with Marty and just see what, you know, if you'd like me to come back in December with pricing,
Sure.
why don't I reach out and find out what it costs and then we'll. See.
and I do think that the community feels very strongly that it needs to be,
You need to see it from Obispo.
yeah.
Yes,
it-
absolutely.
Yes.
We learned that.
Otherwise,
We learned that lesson the hard way. Okay, thank you. All right, moving onward.
Very exciting.
thank you, Tom.
Yes. Consideration of amendment to district personnel manual.
Okay, we have placed this on the agenda. For the coming year, will take effect January 1, 2026. And so what's happened in the past, it's we put in our memo here, you know, health insurance costs have risen dramatically, as we all know, 36% in the last 3 years. So each year, you know, our employees, all two of them, get a CPI increase and a merit increase if it's, and yet they're falling behind. Hope and Nora probably pay about $1,000 each out of pocket each month for health insurance. And as you can see by the comparison chart on page 8, we are far and away lowest compensated people on the coast side. And so what we're trying to do is bring this compensation even with, you know, the Harbor District, SAM, CCWD, City Half Moon Bay, those kinds of people. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're just trying to raise it up there so we're competitive with everybody else and just trying to be fair. So what we're looking for is the changes to the employee manual, which we listed on page 10, and they're outlined on page 7, district's participation in the state disability insurance program.
100% coverage for the SDRMA, long-term disability and life insurance, which is a requirement of SDRMA, so we can't change that. And the biggest thing is to shift from a fixed sum contribution to percentage-based contribution for health insurance up to the 100% cap, because that's basically what all the other districts in the area have. So we're looking for your board to approve those changes to the personnel manual. Any questions?
Question, since it affects you, are you happy with the changes?
I would be very happy. with those changes.
Any,
And just the cost, it looks like the cost is for the rest of 25-26 was 11,000, we're talking maybe 20,000.
right,
And in the grand scheme of things, as always, Sam is 70% of our costs, so it's a tiny percentage
Yeah,
of our
right.
$3.2 million budget or whatever it is, right?
They're a union, so they come in and make a lot of demands.
Right. No.
any,
Our twin employees don't believe that.
right, any comments from the community? Or questions from the community? Do we have a motion? Yeah.
I move that we accept the proposed amendments to the GCSD personnel manual as outlined on page 10 of our agenda packet.
Any second? Alright.
Roll call. Director Allen?
You don't.
No,
yeah,
oh, that's right.
You can just say all.
I'm the one forgetting. I switched to that and I didn't have to do it.
Yeah, you have to say all of them.
Oh, I have to say,
Yeah.
all in favor?
It's not roll call,
Alright,
and then technically.
any opposed? Alright, no opposed, all.
Motion passes 5-0.
Right. Next up, that was great, consideration of variance for APN 048-0. Granada Avenue.
Yep, so this is a variance that, again, the board can only see 2 of these sorts of variances per year because it's what we're kind of referring to as a super substandard lot. Mr. Carey is here, should you have any questions. General counsel has put together the findings to show that this does, comply with the variance rules for the board. So at this point, we would staff would recommend that the variance be passed.
Any questions from the board?
It's always a pleasure to read through all of the required findings.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing, I was gonna say, it's always to go to
Read all.
and go. Wait, because of this, and then this, and then this, and then this, we can make a binding, and I see.
It's not as interesting as draft.
That's into the draft, you're just like.
I think it's interesting on this personal map. That the Ocean Shore Railroad right of way is shown. And I wonder if that, I'd be interesting to look and see if that's actually subdivided into lots. Anyway, that's irrelevant, sorry.
It was interesting, it was the first addition to the city of Balboa,
Right.
which was the name before Granada.
Any questions from the community? On either Zoom or in the room? All right, seeing as there are none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve the variance for HDN 048-1013-590 Granada Avenue
And make the required findings.
and make the required findings.
Thank you. Second.
All in favor?
I,
All opposed? All right, motion passes. How many of us are there? 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Barry.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, next up, engineers report.
Anyone got any question on Don Rayner's report?
I do have an update.
Okay, probably do.
Big Waves engineering check came in today.
all right,
So they are scheduled for the 2nd of December to do the hydro cleaning, CCTV, and for us to unplug and have them fully connected.
Very exciting.
I had someone who's very involved is in book club I'm in, and they're hoping to open this spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's-
that's exciting.
It's, I mean, I was like, every time I drive by there, I'm just blown away by that place. I'm like, wow.
I also just, oh,
Okay.
you're still on that topic, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, no, I was just gonna say, I'm happy to see us making progress to our own, uh, CIP.
I think my question was related to that. I have seen over the last week, the Sam vacuum truck around, and I don't know if they're just clean, are they part of the CIP? They, it looks like they've been cleaning because they were in the street behind my house where my lateral connects. And I heard the noise of them, and then my husband came up and said, "What's happening?" Because the toilet just drained itself.
They're just doing their cleaning. It just so happens.
It's just their
that
normal
in a
cleaning?
neighborhood, yes, this
Okay.
is just their monthly cleaning, so they're not involved in our CCTV.
Yeah, and they're close to your lateral. It makes interesting things happening.
Well, better that than the other one.
Yes.
That's what I thought you were gonna say. I was like, wait, what?
That's to get problems.
Is this tsunami in your turn?
Glad to know my lateral's clear. Nice.
All right. So we have no questions, no comments, nothing to go, well, then we'll go on to the Sam report.
Well, I wanted to report on a couple things, not the financials, so if you do that, they did do an interesting thing. They did shut down the entire plant. And did we talk about this at the last meeting?
It was October 16th, so I think it was just the day before our last
Yeah.
meeting.
They shut down everything in order to move the whole, essentially the control room for all of their stuff, their computers and everything else. So they had to rewire the electricals, rewire the communications. So they had, I think, four generators, including, the boxcar sized one to run the main office. Or run the plant. They had it all shut down. They had a problem because one of the key, the transfer controller that they were counting on was a key piece of this transfer. The brand new one that they bought didn't work. So that took them an extra day. So they paid a lot to rent transformers, but if you get a chance, I'm sure Kishan will be happy to show it to you. The difference between, everything was sort of scattered around in kind of a grungy room, and now they have a nice clean room. It's part of the cybersecurity project that they have, and it really does look great and inspire confidence that room is much more protected. Everything looks, all the connections look proper, and it's great. So that was a big project for them, and they had a bunch of glitches, but they managed to finish it successfully. And then, yeah, I think that was the main thing that I just wanted to share with you.
We've only had one SAM board meeting since our last meeting. In fact, both of the November meetings, the way the calendar landed, were close to holidays. One was the day before Veterans Day, the other would have been Monday during Thanksgiving week, so they canceled both those meetings. So we just had one meeting and did a presentation on, we had a engineering firm looking at potential locations and ways to approach moving the electrical building, which is right down at the bottom of the plant closest to the ocean, because that's where the power poles are, where power comes in. But in the December 31st, 2022 storm, between King Tides and Pillar Cedars Creek, that whole area flooded right up to the foot of the electrical equipment in the electrical room. They have since put in a significant big berm along the creek and had an engineering firm look at it. They said, basically, if the same thing happens again, that berm would protect the plant. But we're getting bigger and bigger storms, so he's still looking at potentially moving the plant, and in relation to that
Generator building.
big event,
Yeah.
they're looking at relocating the whole electrical building to higher ground. So they had an initial promise from FEMA of a grant of about 3 million. About $500,000 of that is being spent with this engineering study. So they have 2.4 million left. Part of the study is, what are the different costs of the 4 locations? They looked at adding a second story onto the engineering building and just moving everything up, adding a second story to the administration building, moving everything up, seeing if they could take over. There's a workshop attached to the building that is used by Half Moon Bay, owned by Half Moon Bay. And just building a building across from their admin building. It's 40 by 20, it's about 800 square feet. And moving all the equipment into that. All of those would involve all new equipment, including the emergency generator. This new building was the cheapest one. Putting a second story on top of any of the existing buildings is very expensive. Because you have to change the foundations of them. So it was 5.7 million. He only has 2.4 million left to come in this grant. So Kishin is looking to see if they can increase their FEMA grant to cover that 3.3 million, or look for other state grants that they could use to augment. If he can't, and we decide that we're not going to go forward with that and depend on the berm, we have to pay back to FEMA the $500,000 or so, I think it's 400 and some thousand, that they have paid for this study, because if we're not going to finish the whole project, they get that money back. So that would be split amongst the agencies, so our share of that would be 20%, $80,000. The board
But it would be an existing plan. Sam
But
would have an existing
I
plan.
was gonna
for-
finish saying.
Sorry, sorry.
The board knew that that was a risk if we ended up not going forward, but as Barbara said, we would have a shovel-ready plan if we got a grant for it sometime in the future. So it just may cost us that much. But it was interesting seeing their evaluation of all four sites. I'm impressed by the firm that seems to be.
They seem to be good. And they also said, actually, they feel like right now.
It's gonna be dependent on the grant, on the ability to get a grant. If we don't get any further funding, then we have to make a go, no-go decision whether we all absorb the cost or absorb the cost of canceling the FEMA grant. If we do get further funding, it's maybe sometime next year.
And they seem to have confidence that FEMA is going to come through with the money. Seems as if in our current situation, that's hard, but again, if they have already planned and grant money becomes available in the future. They made it clear that people who looked at the hydraulics and hydrology of the area, so it's unlikely right now that there would be a flood of the plant.
Yeah.
Is there a timeline when that FEMA money has to be spent?
Yes. And I think it's the end of 2020. We have to start the project before the end of 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this when I weigh in? or-
Would you like to?
My favorite project.
I asked him about a knee wall, just so you know. I asked him about a knee wall and they did consider a knee wall.
Yeah.
And it's the getting in and out of the building as a knee wall.
Yeah, and there's a lot of solutions to this problem, and one of the issues is if you had a hydraulic study that said, yeah, that creek's gonna flood over the thing, then maybe you do have to do it, but you have to do the risk reward, and can you put a knee wall in, and they actually have these. What they're called, they're not called arrow locks, but some other kind of lock where you have it around the building and you keep it open. Until you know the rains are coming, and then you put that up there, it's a lot cheaper than this project, it's a. And, you know, I think we all know, we've got the Montero Force Main
Yeah.
coming up, which is gonna be $10 million, and now we're gonna drop another, and I don't think any of us believe it's gonna be $5.7 million.
Right.
Yeah, I have a whole list of projects. As I said, this will gain momentum subtly before you know it. The options they're looking at are moving the building, they're not looking at the other options, so, but.
And I have.
That's
seen
my 2
estimates
cents
at
to the
10
board.
million. It was listed as a $10 million project in some of the.
Yeah, Dan Kyle, when he did it back 8 years ago, had it at 7 to 9 or something like that, yeah, and that's.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 years ago.
And one more Sam thing to share, which is that Granada's share, most recent share is 17.04%. And that takes our share of the amount we pay every month, Sam, not, it's done by a year, but. We
It's
can
trending
stay at
down.
that level, it's gonna save our regular money, because our payments to Sam will be
Right,
less.
a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's down from 29%, 28% 10 years ago. So it's a
So people
substantial
who built
saving.
Granada, good job.
Keep up saving water.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions on the board to these two? And I don't think any questions on. Well, Michelle, any? You have a question, Michelle? Okay.
All good.
I got the
Yes.
second part of this one.
Yes.
So on page 54 is my agenda memo. So if
Sorry.
you'll remember, we touched on this last month, and this is an outcome of the finance committee meeting back on August 22nd, where we had given Sam, the member agencies had provided Sam with $3 million of funding for the Montero Force Main project, and it turned out they spent about $500,000 on that and another 2.5 on past projects and O&M and whatnot. So we started doing a collective deep dive into this, and there's a lot of facets to this discussion. And I'm trying to keep it simple because at this point in time, we don't need to go in the weeds. I've already been down in the weeds. Nancy's been in the weeds. We all went down there. It's a big picture thing.
Barb's been fighting those weeds for 3
Right,
years.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, the question is basically the member agencies approve a budget and it says we're gonna spend $3 million on this project, lowercase p. And, they've spent $500,000 and the other 2.5 went to past projects they've done. Now we have to remember these past projects they've listed here, and the projects are listed on page.
56 and
Thank
57.
you, 56 and 57. They collected money for these projects back in 21, 22, 23, 24. So, and as you can see, all of these projects, especially if you look at page 57.
Isn't it shocking?
they-
Every single one.
They're astonishingly over budget, not a little, the aeration basin 3, 416 to $690,000, $274,000 over budget. $524,000 over budget, 161, 115. They're astonishingly over budget. And when you do a budget and you have things like this happen, generally, it's the economics 101, allocation of scarce resources. Now, I've never been able to get my family to look at it that way. But there is indeed scarce resources in the allocation of them. So the big picture is we're going to sit down and talk with Kishan and George, their finance manager, and I'm going to get into more detail of where these projects are. And then the second part of that is going to be a legal question, which Bill and I have talked about at length, of if we approve a budget, we're approving a budget. We're not approving giving you 3 million and you spend it how you like, right? That's for that.
Right.
And certainly there should be more transparency if you're going to do that. And I'll finish up with kind of off topic, but on the same topic. I went and looked back at all the SAM agendas and what they present to the SAM board. You can't figure any of this out
I looked at those.
by looking at the agendas, and that's what they're for. So every two months, they put this general budget for the O&M. They don't even break it down to admin and treatment and environmental. And then every third month at the SAM Finance Committee, not at the regular board meeting, they have a update on this project list. They don't show you how much you paid this fiscal year. They show you how much you've paid since the beginning of time. So I've got a couple recommendations for you two of, we have to get this stuff in the SAM regular meeting agenda for transparency and to allow you all to make informed decisions. So.
And there has been a sense that because of the issues in the lawsuit around what was a big P project, what was a small P project, that this should really be addressed when the lawsuit was settled. And so I think we're there. Hopefully, we're going to hear more in closed session. And we'll be able to hopefully make some real changes to the way things are managed. And the other big question to think about is, if a project is going to take more than 1 year and you're budgeting X amount of dollars for the total project, if you have an obligation to pay for a certain amount per year, but it's going to cost more, where does that money sit? Does it sit in SAM and earn money for SAM, or does it stay here in our account until the time comes for it to pay
Allocated.
part 2 of that project? So there's a lot of issues that we will get.
And those are,
Yeah.
I'll call them more minor issues. Obviously, when you're $500,000, I know there's still issues. $500,000 over budget is a real.
And not making transparent meetings such that you can know where.
Right, that
That's
Nancy's
also-
taking a screenshot during the finance committee to figure out where the money went. And I don't think there's anything nefarious about this. It's just,
No,
we
who
just
is
have to.
budgeted, who is
yeah.
putting these budgeted numbers together?
Keishan proposes the budget every year, and I think I did want to say, I am confident that the money went to do the things that things says they're doing. It's the delay, there were 17 things proposed in the 2021 budget, which seems, particularly in hindsight now, 4 years later, some of them still aren't finished. That was too many things in 1 year. And so I think in addition to, getting into the exactly what is happening, I think our next step is to say, and it's been happening a long time, so I'm not, pointing fingers at anybody. This I think is a practice that has developed over time and predates Keishan. Because the 2021 budget was his first budget as GM. And I think they had a lot of pent up demand from the staff on things that they felt were delayed and wanted to do. But it snowballs over time, and having a $10 million Montero Force Main project that has to be done by a certain date that is now behind in its funding, as these projects have snowballed forward and used some of the Montero Force Main money, is going to become a financial issue for all of the member agencies in the next budget year, probably. So once we sort out what they are doing, I think then we have a sense check. Let's go back to the beginning against the JPA and see what does the JPA say how we should do this, and just do an alignment check. Because to the point you just made, Barbara, their process now is to say, here's the budget for this project, and we pay it to them in that year. But I think as I read the JPA, and Bill will give us counsel on this at another time, they should only actually put in this year's budget what they intend to spend this year.
Yeah.
But instead, they're putting into this, so that implies that when they had 17 projects in 2021, and whatever that added up to, and it was probably more than 2.5 million, the intent was to spend all that money in that budget year. And clearly that is not the way the financial management is happening. So we do need to have, a good deep discussion and sense check on exactly how it's being managed.
Yeah, and to my original point, there's a lot of facets to this. We could pick on a lot. Collected $200,000 for a project they didn't do. Where's that? That kind of thing. We don't want to get,
We want,
down into that stuff.
we don't want to manage Sam, but we want to make
Exactly,
sure
but-
that our
and that's why-
ratepayers know what they're paying for.
That's why after I went to the weeds, I pulled back up and said, big picture, you can't take $2.5 million and spend it somewhere else that's not approved by the collective boards, all three member agency boards, so.
And I have two more comments. One is that when I raised this in the past, essentially you're paying with cash flow for things, because you're just assuming there's going to be money there to cover things. There wasn't a lot of support from the other two agencies for dealing with that. And I want to really give Nancy credit for pinning down numbers, and I think raising it to a point. I also think that because hopefully we're approaching the end of the lawsuit, people are a little more willing to look at it now. And then my last comment is, when we did our last budget, there were people at other agencies who suggested that we also had to look at the under budgeting for projects. That there seems to be an ongoing inaccurate budgeting.
This list, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't seem to be, it quite actually is like.
But we.
Some
It's
stuff.
good
Right.
It's good that people are focusing on that though, because in the past, it's kind of been just like, oh, here's the budget. And then they give you a lot of numbers and a lot of explanations, and people just,
Well, and 10, 12 years ago, when this was happening, because it's been happening, like you say, a long time, we stopped funding projects until we had bids because of it. And we gave them money and they didn't do it or whatever. So now it was like, you go up, get a bid, you're ready to go to the project, here's your 500 grand.
Well, several years ago, the general managers group, along with the general manager of SAM, agreed to a cap on how much capital improvements they would do every year. And I think we either have under budgeting for the projects they want to do to fit into that cap, or we have too many projects that should cost more than that cap. But I think they, built budget numbers that fit in that cap.
Well,
And
remember
clearly-
they did the 5-year CIP that didn't,
Yeah,
right?
and then so clearly there were more, either more projects or more expensive projects than should have fit under that cap. So it's, we'll live and learn, but I think it's time to do a really good check step, particularly with the lawsuit being over.
Yes,
Well,
and
okay.
just one more comment, which is that, we've done a lot in the last 5 years, ever since Beverly left. There have been project after project that's been sitting, on the wish list of the SAM staff. And so many of them had been done, and I think we should feel good about the amount of capital improvement work that has been done there.
It's been like $15 million in the last 5 years.
Yeah, this community has really stepped up and provided the funds to upgrade that plan. I know they feel there's more, but we should also recognize the fact that a lot's been done.
Amazing.
All right, so
All right.
we'll meet with Sam and report back at the next meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to consent agenda. Anyone want to open up any of those items?
I don't want to open up, can I just ask a question, like Chuck on the financial statement?
Sure.
When do we typically receive the sewer fee and property tax money from the town? Is it in lumps a few times a year?
2 big lumps in December and April.
Yeah, we're expecting the next.
So we get a trickle, you all pay your property taxes where our sewer service charge is put on. Big lump in December, big lump, so it's a bad cash flow situation.
Okay.
It's showing that it should have come in already, but I know that's not what happened.
It's last year,
I
it
wonder-
came in around December 10th.
Hmm.
So,
That's the due date, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, December 10th.
Great.
All right, a motion to approve the consent
I
agenda.
move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Any committee reports on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings? All right, information calendar, attorney's report,
Report.
general manager's report,
Nothing further.
administrative staff report.
It's in the memo. We are also in the midst of our audit, just so you know, so we should be finishing that up in the next couple of weeks.
Good times over there.
Yeah.
Future agenda items. When, any chance we're gonna come back to medians?
I did hear back from them. I've got a name and I will contact them, but yeah.
Can we optimistically, hopefully, maybe have it on next month's agenda, and I think
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I can do that.
medians. Oh,
Mueller proposal. right?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, great.
I have a question, do we have any indication whether or not, we've been approached about extending the lease for the preschool?
Oh, well,
Yeah, not-
no, but that's, we can't talk about that. We're
I
not-
can put it on a future
You can
agenda.
future agenda.
Just under the future agenda items, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, the ad hoc committee, I think, owes at least one more.
Yeah,
Update.
we would need to do we'll plan to have an update on next month's agenda.
December.
Yeah.
Because last year it was December, January.
Right.
when-
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. I mean,
Early
at least
Christmas
have
present.
something.
We'll talk about it December
What are you
17th.
doing over there?
I don't,
And,
I don't do much.
yeah.
All right, with that, I'm going to close the meeting at 8:28 for a general meeting and adjourn to closed session.
And I would like to report, we will not need to close or adjourn to
Oh,
closed session
wait,
because
can we
there's no
Ask a
update.
question, can we have a closed session and just ask?
It's your board.
Do we need to-
You can ask a question after the meeting to Bill, if you'd like, or you can go to
Fine.
closed session then.
Do we need a closed session or do you want to ask a question
I'll
about
just ask them myself.
Yeah.
There's nothing to.
just say? All right, then we will adjourn the meeting at 8:29. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
regular.
All right.
meeting is adjourned.